So a guy named Kevin J. Ryan from HiPod had a question. You know, everybody who reads about what you're doing, or a lot of people who read about what you're doing, the kind of naysayers say, you know, well, she's doing all this stuff, but where's the money? Like, is she selling records because of it? You know, what ultimately is the product? You know? So I guess the question is, for a fan who maybe is really into you and has already bought your record, is when you're doing all this stuff, are you thinking about, hey, am I selling a record? I mean, what is, for you, what is the ultimate kind of, to use a dirty word, what's to, you know, where's the money and all that, for the people that are kind of critical about all the effort versus the return?
Well, I mean, I'm on tour right now, and all these people had to pay to get in.
Thank you.
And a lot of these people tonight will buy the book that I have, the DVD that I have, the shirts that we're selling, the posters that we're selling. So a vast amount of my income comes to me when I hit the road, which is why I, you know, need to constantly hit the road, but not so much that I exhaust myself. And luckily, once again, I like this. Like, I love doing this. I love being on stage. I love playing. I love seeing and meeting all of these people. And you know, the other ways that it comes in that are, you know, that wind up being, you know, one-offs, like I'll do a webcast and sell something on the webcast, or, you know, this crazy thing that happened on Twitter where, like, we had this like very brief movement on a Friday night and I sold a bunch of t-shirts. That stuff just happens randomly, and I don't, sometimes it's planned, sometimes it's not planned. And, you know, sometimes I'll just go and play you know, a festival for a bunch of people who aren't my fans, but I'll make $5 grand. And the way I look at it, everything I do feeds into everything else. And that actually kind of drives my team crazy a little bit because, you know, in the old days, everything was very album-centric. And you focused on, you're gonna make a record, you're gonna put the album out, you're gonna tour around the record, and you'll do that for a little while, and then you'll stop, and you'll do it again. And even, you know, it may have something to do with right when I got into the business, but I never really thought about things that way, even from the first day of the Dresden Dolls. And, you know, managers and agents and the label would talk to us about, like, well, with this release, and I was like, what, you know, what do you mean with this release? Like, we're the Dresden Dolls. We just do the Dresden Dolls. And we live this way, and we tour, and we always want to play shows, and we always want to do weird projects, and we don't, you know, we're not thinking of this as a business. We're doing this because I love playing and writing, and Brian loves playing the drums, and we just want to do it all the time. And so we'll make a record, and then we'll make another record, but why do we have to plan things in chunks? And I still feel that way. You know, I'm constantly out just doing Amanda Palmer, and every little thing affects every other little thing.
Do you think because labels have been so focused on you know, the tour and everything, they don't participate in any of the money typically, unless they sign a 360 deal with an artist or something. But because they're so album focused, do you think that now that's why labels can't help somebody like you as much, because they're so focused on selling a product and not necessarily an experience, and they're not really, their brains aren't really wired to think about what you're doing as an artist?
Well, sure. I mean, labels are having a hard time, period, because CDs are not selling, and they're selling less and less and less and at an extreme rate. But, you know, there's all sorts of different labels who try to do things all sorts of different ways, and what will often happen is that a major label, especially, you know, will have a plan or hope for a certain band, and this happens constantly. And, you know, if the band doesn't achieve or exceed the expectations of the label within a certain time, they'll just basically put their energy elsewhere, you know, into an act that's doing better, or a new act, or whatever. And that's the oldest story. I mean, that's been happening since labels started working with artists. And that's why it's such a difficult relationship. And that's why, you know, I would urge any musician who's out there who's thinking of signing with a label, I don't think it's a bad idea at all, as long as it's a partnership that you really trust, and you have a personal relationship with the people who run the label, and you really, really trust them. and you don't sign your life over. Not that I did, but the thing that that Brian and I went through with, and that I then went through with Roadrunner Records, our label, I don't regret it at all, because the label really helped us. They really helped us on our first record. They helped us a little bit on our second record, and they helped us until they stopped helping. And when they stopped helping, it was time to go.
So, do you think that because when they heard her doing a record Ben Folds, that maybe they thought, dollar signs, like, wow, this is going to be a really huge record. Her bass is going to blow up. And then when you didn't get a response from radio and video and stuff, they were just like, oh, okay, well, what was the math? How did that go down?
I mean, that's pretty much exactly how it went down. I also went through a management switch right before the record came out, which, I think irritated them. But that's what happened. What happened with the Dresden Dolls' second record, which was really heartbreaking, because Brian and I were so proud of that record, is that they built it up and they did a lot of promotion ahead of time, and then the record came out. And the first week the record came out, Yes, Virginia, our fan base, who were really loyal, they all went out and bought it. They bought it on pre-sale. They bought it from us. They went out into stores, and the first week of sales were like fantastic, and everyone was like, "Oh my God, this is great!" And the second week of sales, plummeted, and they literally just abandoned the record on the second week, and we were heartbroken because we had worked so hard, and we loved the record. And, we were out there on tour, like, slogging and flogging and trying to get the word out about the record. And they literally just left, They didn't answer the phone. It was hard.